Hello everyone, it's Clayton. I just finished watching Morbius, starring Jared Leto and Matt Smith, and it's the next installment of the Sony Marvel universe, where Sony happens to create as many films as possible about characters that are in the Spider-Man universe that they still have the rights to that aren't automatically going to be in the MCU. They've done that with Venom in the films that he had in 2018 and 2021, and now they're doing a film with another famous Spider-Man villain, Morbius. But unfortunately, unlike the Venom movies, which were at least fun in a guilty pleasure sort of way, mainly thanks to Tom Hardy's energetic performance and some genuinely fun fights, Morbius ends up being as generic and as bloodless as possible to get a PG-13 rating, on top of just feeling extremely soulless and clearly only made for the sake of itself. Not to mention having some of the worst post-credit scenes that I've ever seen in one of these movies. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story centers around Michael Morbius, played by Jared Leto, who's a man with a rare blood disease that makes it impossible for him to walk without the use of crutches, and it's getting close to claiming his life. But after some experimental tests involving different forms of DNA, and especially ones involving vampiric bats, Morbius ends up creating a serum that makes him very similar to a vampire, in the sense that he has enhanced superhuman reflexes, speed, and strength, and he constantly requires a supply of blood to keep him satiated. However, when his friend Milo, played by Matt Smith, ends up trying to get the serums because he has the exact same disease that's claiming his life, Morbius has to keep him away from the serum while also gaining a reputation of being a vampiric murderer around New York City with a couple of comic relief FBI agents, one of them played by Tyrese Gibson, searching for him. But that's all I'll say about the story without spoiling anything. The thing that made this film interesting when it comes to its viral marketing was the fact that it seemed that Morbius was going for a more horror-themed approach when it came to its characters. And unfortunately, while it certainly does try a bit of that with Morbius's overall design and a couple of the action scenes which definitely feel more like serial killer sprees rather than actual superhero battles, outside of that, the film's story is very generic. You'll see the beats coming a mile away if you've seen literally any superhero film from the current day to even ones from the early 2000s. And that's a big problem with this film. It doesn't just feel like a bad superhero film. It feels like an overly serious and just not fun superhero film from the early 2000s, like the Ben Affleck Daredevil. Give the Venom films some credit. They at least knew how to have fun with the material, even if they didn't always give us exactly what we wanted from the comics. For this one, not only does Jared Leto have almost zero actual charisma as Morbius, but Matt Smith, who plays Milo, surprisingly is the only actor who's allowed to have any fun in his role. He's not enough to salvage the film, but he is able to give the scenes some life with him chewing the scenery as a generally fun antagonist. But even then, he's pretty thinly written and clearly only good enough to make the film not completely unwatchable. Mainly because the other characters are so darn forgettable. Whether it's Morbius's love interest, or even Tyrese Gibson and his partner as FBI agents who are clearly used for comic relief, it feels like that these characters were written in the span of a day. And the effects that are clearly all CG that don't even look remotely convincing, they do not help matters in the slightest either. And then, of course, there's those lovely post-credit scenes. I'm not going to spoil them, but they are connected to exactly the films you'd think they'd be connected to, and I very much doubt that the thing they're setting up is ever going to happen. So not only is this the biggest disappointment out of Sony's films in recent years, but I just think it's the worst Spider-Man adjacent film that I've seen in a while, and that includes Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm sorry, Dr. Morbius, but I'm going to have to give you a 3 out of 10. I just wish Kevin Feige came to fix this. See you later.